Very good afternoon to everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Masaki Takahara, Managing Director of JETRO Sydney office. Japan External Trade Organization, known as JETRO, is a Japanese government-related organization which promotes trade and investment between Japan and the rest of the world, utilizing the extended network of 76 overseas offices in 55 countries and 50 domestic offices in all the prefectures. One of our main activities in Sydney is promotion of Australian companies' investments into the Japanese market. The Japanese economy has been sluggish for the last 30 years after the bubble economy boosted. And the Japanese economy is said to be slow in digital transformation, sticking to traditional manners. But this transformation has been accelerated since the pandemic, and more engagement of foreign companies is expected. We are trying to attract Australian companies with disruptive ideas and advanced technologies, which contribute to raising the productivity and effectiveness of the Japanese economy. To build the network of potential investors in Australia, we have hosted a series of webinars to introduce how the Japanese market is attractive last year, and we plan to focus on legal aspects of setting up the business in Japan in new series of webinars, Building Your Business in Japan, Business Law Essentials for Australians, commencing today. We plan to bring you the topics of employment law and working visa in upcoming webinars. Today, we have Genichiro Ito, legal counsel, who is a Japanese qualified lawyer based in Sydney as a speaker. He has extensive experience and knowledge in relation to cross-border commercial transactions and regulatory advice for corporations. He has working experience for global law firms in Tokyo and Sydney, as well as for an investment company in Japan on secondment. Before I hand it over to Mr. Ito, I'd like to let Roger Tao, in charge of the Invest Japan program of JETRO Sydney, briefly introduce the business environment of Japan and our Invest Japan program. And let me move to an announcement and a bit of housekeeping rules. We are running this webinar as a part of Japanaru, which is an online and offline series of events to promote Japanese culture. If you are interested, please Google Japanaru and join the events you are interested in. Your video and microphone are off through the webinar, so if you have any questions, please write in text to the Q&A box. You can write at any time during the webinar. In the Q&A session, the speakers will answer as much as possible. In addition, today's presentation slides are to be sent to registered participants later. So I'd like to invite Roger. I hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Takahara-san. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for attending today's webinar. Just briefly, my name is Roger Zhao. I'm from the business development team here at JETRO Australia. And part of my role at the Sydney office is to identify and support companies with innovative, unique, or game-changing products. Those companies that are willing to enter and establish an entity in Japan. I know some of you who are watching this webinar are already receiving our services. Lovely to see you here. But for those who are new to JETRO or at this stage just considering the Japanese market, I'd like to share with you some information about the Invest Japan program and what we can do to help make your step into Japan a little bit easier. But first, a brief summary about the business and economic situation in Japan. As many of you know, Japan is one of the major global economic players. With the third highest GDP and 11th highest population in the world, it is a huge market with a wealthy customer base and, of course, a highly developed economy. Furthermore, when Japan is split into its regions, even the local economies are comparable to other countries around the world. As you can see on the screen, even the Kanto region, which encompasses Tokyo and Yokohama, has an economy that is equivalent to Brazil, and other areas around Japan have economies equivalent to the size of places in Europe and Southeast Asia. So even just entering a local economy, there's lots of potential there. As with the global economy, GDP growth fell on the onset of the current COVID-19 pandemic. That's the big drop in the second quarter of 2020. But we can also see that they made a swift recovery in the third quarter of 2020. But of course, with the pandemic continuing, and as we are all experiencing at the moment, we can probably expect these figures to jump around amid the global economic and health uncertainty. But if we look at foreign direct investment flows into Japan, we can see a healthy trend of surplus, despite the current ongoing situation. Japan has long been seen as a safe bet for foreign direct investment, and we can see that much of this investment is coming in from the UK and Europe after Brexit, and of course, an increasing trend from the US as well. Much of this flow is focused on the non-manufacturing sector, particularly in finance and insurance. Transportation and service industries are also a large share. So the trend for foreign investment is on the rise in Japan, and it's becoming an increasingly attractive market. So these companies are often set up in the major cities in Japan. Unsurprisingly, of the 3,000 companies surveyed by the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, also known as METI, 65% of them were based in Tokyo, and another 10% in neighboring Kanagawa Prefecture, which is often, you might know of Yokohama. Meanwhile, the Osaka, Kyoto, Kobe regions remains the second most popular region, followed by the area around Nagoya. Also in a separate survey, about 60% of foreign companies from around the world have established themselves as a single entity in Japan. So the remaining there would be joint ventures and mergers. So what have established companies in Japan found to be attractive in doing business? In another survey, high income levels and volume for products and services ranked #1. As repeated before, the GDP and populations are both very high. Another popular reason for entering and doing business in Japan is extensive infrastructure. And of course, if you've ever been to Japan, you'll probably have experienced that even the remote regions of Japan are very easy to access. High-speed rail connects every major city, and those cities' airports often having extensive domestic and international connections. So you're well connected to the world as well, and not just Japan. Concentration of global companies in these cities is also another attractive reason to do business in Japan, as well as a highly developed living environment. The World Bank publishes a doing business report measuring business regulations and enforcement, observing a number of factors. The report ranked Japan 29th overall and 8th among the G20. But the government aims to be #1 in the G20 by 2030. And you can see that the biggest factor pulling Japan down at the moment in this ranking is starting a business and getting credit. So the Japanese government is introducing policies to make these factors better. One of these, for example, is a tax deduction for corporations, organizations, and CVCs located in Japan, investing in open innovation and startups. So there are obviously certain criteria to be met, but it gives incentives for these companies to invest in these new startups. So if you are a company that has not been established in Japan for more than 10 years, you could be an attractive investment opportunity for these corporations, organizations, or CVCs. As well as for startups, Tokyo was ranked 15th in the world for global startup ecosystems. The metropolitan government in Tokyo aims to be within the top 5 by 2030, looking to be among the ranks of Silicon Valley, New York City, and London. Furthermore, it's not just Tokyo that is trying to attract startups. The Japanese government has designated startup cities across Japan. These startup cities are looking to attract startups through various incentives and support programs. Each city has their own criteria and incentive programs, which differ between local governments. This information is available on the Invest Japan website. Part of these support programs for attracting startups is the startup visa. Again, each region has their own criteria and you will need to check and apply through local governments, but often these visas bypass requirements from the national government immigration policies, with some cases not even needing having a minimal capital requirement or a fixed office space. Of course, this does depend, but it is one way that the government is looking to increase open innovation and digital transformation into Japan. So that's a brief summary of the business situation in Japan. As you can see, the overall environment is quite positive despite the ongoing COVID pandemic and economic uncertainty. So whether you're a startup or a VC looking for investment opportunities, Japan is putting quite a lot of work into attracting foreign investment. Which brings me to JETRO and the Invest Japan program, which is also a government initiative to attract business and investment into Japan. So our focus of Invest Japan is to identify and service companies looking to enter Japan with a particular focus on companies that have a unique or innovative product or service. As a government program, our service is completely free, and we can help you plan, set up, and even expand your business. As Takahara-san mentioned earlier, with over 50 offices in Japan, that's at least one in every prefecture. We're very capable of supporting you locally, wherever you end up deciding to set up your business. And depending on your business, our services can range from access to market and industry information, consultations regarding visa, taxes, labor laws, and other legal affairs, introduction to government agencies, business partners, and access to market reports and industry experts who can give advice on strategy and give you more details about the business situations appropriate to you. In some cases, we are also able to assist in identifying national or regional incentives, as well as PR support if required. One of the most popular features of the Invest Japan program is access to the Invest Japan Business Support Center, or IBSC. Participants of Invest Japan can take advantage of free temporary office space at any of our 6 IBSCs. You can see on the screen that there are 6 of these, and they're often co-located with the regional JETRO offices. So that these IBSCs are in Tokyo, Yokohama, Nagoya, Osaka, Kobe, and Fukuoka. These temporary offices can be used as a base to start off your business in Japan. You can use them to conduct meetings, interviews, networking opportunities, and just conducting business in general. It should be noted, however, that an IBSC cannot be used to register your company in Japan, as these offices are temporary and you will need a fixed address for registration. This information is, of course, available on our website as well, but this is an example of the IBSC office space in Tokyo. You can use these spaces flexibly over 50 working days at any of our IBSCs, depending and subject to availability, of course. Each of these IBSCs has common areas and meeting rooms which you can use to, again, host meetings, seminars, conferences, whatever you need to do to start your business in Japan. So if any of this sounds interesting to you, the process for signing up for our services is to first register your interest with JETRO. This can be done through our website or email, as you can see on the screen. And once registered, we'll organize a meeting with you and the team, including me, to get to know about you and your company. Once we've had that meeting, we'll send you an application form. And once that is returned, it will be sent for screening by our Tokyo headquarters. That might take a few weeks depending on the situation with COVID and public holidays as well in Japan. But once approved, we will ask for a kickoff meeting with you and a member from our Tokyo headquarters to better understand your needs and talk about any of the requests you may have asked for. And from there, you can begin enjoying our services. Again, our services are completely free. So if you are interested in applying for Invest Japan, or just want to find out more, you can search JETRO Invest Japan using your favorite search engine, or visit our Invest Japan website on screen. And you can also email us directly at syd-bd@jetro.go.jp. And that's all from me. Hope to hear from some of you very soon. And I hope you all stay safe in the meantime. Thank you very much. Back to you, Takahara-san.
Thank you, Roger, for introducing our Invest Japan program. Next, so I'd like to invite Mr. Ito to talk about setting up business in Japan from the legal aspects. I'd like to hand it over to Mr. Ito.
Yes, thanks very much, Mr. Takahara. Let me share my screen. Good. So hello, everyone. My name is Genichiro Ito. I'm a Japanese qualified lawyer based in Sydney, and now operating as a freelance lawyer here in Sydney. So briefly, I came here in Australia about 5 years ago to study at Sydney University for the master's degree. And after spending 1 year here, I was really attracted to, all those great in nature here and very kind and friendly people. So I decided to stay. And after working for one of those international major law firms and a small law firm, I've gained a lot of experience in advising to Japanese and Australian clients here in Australia. And before that was, I have been working for another major international law firm in Tokyo for about 5 years. There, I have given lots of advice to various international companies operating in Japan. So I'm confident to say that I really have a good experience both in Australia and Japan, and skilled in advice to those international companies and people who are interested in entering into Japan. So, all right, here we go. So today I'm going to talk about the business law essentials for you guys. This is the first session of a 3 webinar series. Today we'll focus on the business law essentials, and then second would be employment law, and then third would be visa. And the second will be held in September, and the third will be in October. And today's agenda, introduction, line of business, types of entities, details of each type, and tips for startup companies. There you go. Introduction. So I have a question to you guys. So have you been to Japan, or what did you think about Japan? Did you want to go back to Japan? Yeah, so I assume for most of you, the answer to this question would be yes, considering that you're spending your time to attend this webinar or looking at watching the video that will be uploaded after the seminar. So then my second question is, have you ever thought about starting your business in Japan? And to this question, I assume for most of you, the answer would be no, unfortunately. And I would like to change that. So Roger-san has introduced a lot of attraction about the Japanese market, but here I just would like to address again what kind of opportunities are there in Japan for you. For example, from the left top side, you may be able to sell your organic products in Japan. You know, Australia is the leading market or country producing a lot of organic products because people are really into and keen to having healthy life. And that's the same for Japanese people. And that's the opportunities for you is there. So you might produce, sell, and then organic products in Japan. That would be really good opportunities for you. Second, start your own brand in Tokyo. For all the designers or artists, having your own shop in Tokyo would be really exciting, isn't it? And third, provide online services to Japanese people. So Japan might be known as a technology advanced country, but I see personally a lot of space to further develop in terms of online services. So if you're confident that you have a good online service in Australia, then it's your opportunity to expand your business into Japan as well. And fourth, invest in holiday properties in Hokkaido. For example, here, a lot of, I don't say a lot, but like some of you may have been to Hokkaido or other region for skiing or snowboarding, and then you have encountered those like beautiful nature of Japan, and it's not your dream to just have a property there and then spend your holiday there. And I've seen some foreign investors actually investing into the holiday properties in Japan. So it's not just dream, that's going to happen for you. And fifth, start an adventure tour company in Okinawa. That'll be another option for you. And third, acquire part of a Japanese company. So this will be advantageous if you want to take advantage of an already existing client base or product line and so on. So next. So why you have not thought about starting your business in Japan? There may be a lot of other reasons, but I would like to focus on the legal perspective. So I think one of the reasons is that there's a lack of illegal information available to you. And that's connected to the very limited access to good legal advisors to you. So I would like to change that. And then today I would like to provide legal information about starting your business in Japan. First of all, it's important for you to plan your business. Why? Because having a plan, having a good plan actually affects your decision about the structure, business structure that you're going to establish in Japan. For example, we're going to talk about the details about of those different types later. But for example, if you establishing a representative office in Tokyo, but this doesn't allow you to actually sell your products or services. So if you are thinking about selling your products and you happen to have a representative office, then you cannot do whatever you wanted to actually do in Japan. And another example would be, for example, if you want to raise capital from different investors and then going public and get listed in the market, but you happen to choose, for example, GK company, then you would not be able to list your company in the market if your company is a GK company. So it's very important to plan your business ahead to select the best business structure for you. And what are the things that you should think about? So I've listed some of those things that you think about in planning. So first of all, what do you want to do? So for, like I said, do you want to just, do you want to sell and do you want to start your services in Japan already quick, or you're still on the stage where you want to go in there and then just do a bit of like marketing and then do some researches there? That's one question that you have to think about the answer. And the second would be, what does your company look like in 5 years? So are you selling your company in the future, or you're going public or something, so on. And the third would be the location of your business. Rogerson has introduced you about the governmental benefits that will be granted to certain locations in Japan in terms of the visa. So choosing the location of your business would affect whether you can enjoy those benefits provided by the government in terms of the visa. And fourth would be your business would require a license to operate in Japan or not. This is actually very important, because some of the foreign companies operating in Japan operate business without having required a license. In many cases, this would end up receiving a huge fine because of that. So it's very important to know whether your business would require a license in Japan or not. And these are the things, and then I'll list some other things that you should consider before starting your business. Okay. Next, so once you have a rough plan about your business in Japan, there'll be two main scenarios I would say. So one would be buying a Japanese company, and then second would be starting your own business or company from scratch. So today, I would like to talk about the second option, establishing your own business entity in Japan. And let me explain about types of entities that you can choose from. There are four main types of entities that you may select from. First would be representative office, and second being a branch, and third being company, which is called Kabushiki Kaisha or KK company. And then fourth would be a company Goto Kaisha, which is often referred to as GK company. And then I've just put a bit of main features of each type here in the list. So from left, so representative office is the simplest structure, and then easy to step up, but there's a huge disadvantage because you can't really do the business. And branch would be an arm of your Australian company in Japan. It's just a part of Australian company, basically. And then third and fourth, KK company and GK company, these are the independent entities in Japan. So that means they have to have separate corporate documents and things, but as a separate entity, your Australian company may be protected when the business in Japan going bad, just in case. So a little bit about the details of each type of entity. So first, representative office. So just like I said, it's the simplest structure amongst the four. Basically, what you do is send people there or send a person there, and then set up an office, and then that's it. You have the representative office already. So this is the simplest structure, and then there's no registration required, so you don't have to register anything. But this is so this is suitable for people or a company that are still on the stage of just let's go there and then see what's there, and then whether your business would be profitable there. So doing some researches, I'll talk to people there, doing some marketing, and yeah, so these things, if you're thinking about doing, then this is the suitable business structure for you. But the disadvantage is that you can't really start your business, meaning you can't make profit, you can't sell your products, or you can't sell services with your representative office. And similarly, because it's not registered and it's very easily set up business structure, you may often face difficulties in opening a corporate bank account or even renting an office in Japan. So in these cases, what you can do is have these people that you send to Japan to open the individual corporate account and rent an office under the individual's name. So that's what they do if you have a representative office in many cases. So the next one, it's the branch of your Australian company. So the advantage of this business structures compared with a representative office is that you can actually carry on your business in Japan. So you can start selling your products, goods, services there, and then make profits there. So this is a huge advantage as compared with representative office. And because of this benefit, you have to actually register your branch in Japan, and then this could be a bit of a disadvantage for you, because you have to prepare a bunch of documents to get registered. For example, they require your Australian company's information, such as registrations or many information, a lot of information may be required. So it's second easiest or simplest way to establish your business structure in Japan, but yet it might not be that easy as it sounds. So you have to prepare documents and then get affidavits about those documents, declaring that these are the documents, proper documents. And another disadvantage would be, so the situation is better than a representative office, but yet you might still encounter some difficulties in opening a corporate bank account or renting an office as a branch of an Australian company. And again, so this is a part of the Australian company, so your Australian company will be responsible for the debts and credits of this branch in Japan. So the next is Kabushiki Kaisha, or we call it KK company usually. So this is an independent entity in Japan. So if you have the 100% interest in this entity, then this is going to be your wholly owned a subsidiary of your Australian company, or you can just start as a completely new company in Japan. And so the advantage of this structure is that you can actually carry on a business like branch and JK company. So for example, before that, so this structure is something similar to PTY company in Australia, company limited by share. So basically, the company issues a share, and then you're going to be the shareholder, and there are directors and other officers who would manage the company. So it's pretty similar to PTY companies in Australia. And then another advantage of this structure is that so this is the conventional business structure in Japan. So if the people in Japan hear that also you have a kabushiki gaisha, then they will understand basically, or usually. And because of that, this structure, people would say are more socially credible than JK company, which I'm going to talk about later. And another advantage of this structure is that you can, because this is a share company issuing shares, you can actually raise capital by issuing shares. And this is advantage for those companies who is going to raise capital from the investors in Japan, grow more capital in Japan, all those entities. And another advantage is that they can issue class shares, different kinds of class shares. So this is another advantage if you're thinking about raising capitals from the investors, because you usually issue different class of shares to different investors, having priorities in sort of, let's say, the voting rights or dividends or the assets and things. So you can issue a different class of shares if you're having this type of business structure. And there should be almost no issue in opening a corporate banking account or renting an office as a local entity. Yet, I wouldn't. There'll be screenings by the banks. So I wouldn't say there's no issue at all. But you still have to go through the screenings by the banks. But will be less problems as compared with the representative office or the branch of your Australian company. And disadvantage of this type would be registration and then more regulations than the GK company. So this is one of the main things that you would have to consider whether choosing whether KK company or JK company. KK company, like I said, is a conventional business structures, and then it's regulated more closely by the Companies Act in Japan, which means less flexibility in your operation or management. For example, you'd have to have shareholder resolution for issuing new shares or appointing new directors or changing your constitutions and things. So all those things, you have to have a shareholders resolution, which is mandatory under the Companies Act of Japan. So this is a bit of the difference between KK company and then GK company. And the other points to address here is that because this is an independent company, your Australian company does not have to be is not responsible for this local Japanese KK companies debts or credits. So if, for example, if the business doesn't go well in Japan and then you have to close your business here in Japan, then all those liabilities that is owed by the business in Japan wouldn't be coming to your Australian company. So that's one of the things that you have to think about, whether you would choose the independent companies like KK company or GK company, or you would stay with your Australian company by choosing representative office or branch. And the lastly, I'm going to talk about GK company. This is newly introduced business structures in early 2000s. So for some people in Japan doing business, this kind of structure might not sound very familiar. So when you say you have GK company, maybe some of the people wouldn't understand what kind of structure it is. But I would say the things are changing, because a lot of foreign companies like Apple, Google, all those major American companies are choosing this type of business structures and then getting popular amongst the Japanese companies as well. So the huge advantage of this type of structure is the flexibility in the management and an operation. So like I said, if you're having KK company, then you have to have, there's a list of the matters that you have to pass resolution by the shareholders and perhaps directors as well. But for a GK company, you can actually decide what kind of resolution would be required for certain matters. So there's a lot of flexibility in terms of the management. For example, dividends are not really restricted under the under the Companies Act for GK companies. So you can freely select when and then how much and to whom you're going to pay dividends from the company. So that's the flexibility that I'm talking about. So disadvantage of this GK structure is that you're not going to issue shares, which means your company cannot be listed. So if you're thinking about going public and IPOs, then this structure might not be suitable for you. Technically, there's the method under the Companies Act that you can convert GK company into KK company later on the later stage, but it's a lot of work. So if you're thinking about going public, then I would say choosing KK company over GK company would be your option. And same as the KK company, this is an independent entity. So your Australian company wouldn't be responsible for this GK company's own debts and credits. So, I introduced you 4 different types and the details about those types. And the next question would be how you should select. I've already talked about many things about how you should choose. But again, here, I would like to address some of the factors or points that you should think about before selecting your business structure. First, how much are you ready to commit? So this question sort of relates to the question about, are you going to sell your product immediately, or are you first want to look into the market and then do some researches? If you're, I've already talked about this, so I'm going to do a really short. So if you're thinking about doing just researches and marketing things, then a representative office may be suitable for you, because it's the simplest and cheapest way to establish, and then it's easy to close. Basically, you just send your people back to Australia and close down the office. That's it. But if you're thinking about or selling your products, immediately or in like near future, then it's not very good for you to set up a representative office. But it will be suitable for you to establish branch KK company or a JK company. So this is the question about whether you should have a representative office or other structure. And second question would be, do you want to establish a separate local entity? So these questions would be about whether you should have a branch or I would say representative office or a KK company or JK company. So having a local separate entity would be advantageous if you are committed, because it's going to be how to say, the Japanese business people would consider you as really committing to the Japanese market, and this would lead to for them to think that you guys are more credible. And also because this is a separate entity, you wouldn't have to be liable for anything, any debts and credits owed by the local entity. On the other hand, if you don't want to be bothered by having separate set of corporate documents such as institutions and register members registrars, then having a branch might be suitable for you. But you'd have to be responsible for all those liabilities incurred by the business in Japan. And third question would be, is flexibility in your company structure management important for you? This is the question about whether you should select GK or KK company. So I've already told you about the flexibility in GK company. For example, the advantages, it has the flexibility in terms of dividends, the approval structure in the company, and so on. So if you want to have a flexibility, then GK company is a one for you. And the last question would be, are you planning to raise capital for investors? So again, I told you about this already. So if you are thinking about going public or IPO, then you'd have to choose KK company, because otherwise you can't do that. And so, yeah, it's about whether you prefer the flexibility of GK company or you'd prefer KK company because you're going to raise capital from the investors and going public. Right. So these are the things that I would like to talk about when selecting your business structure. And then I just want to talk a little bit about tips for startup companies now. So for startup companies, I think there are three main scenarios. One would be grow and keep your business without selling or going public or raising capital from the investors. And second would be you might want to think about selling your business at some point in the future. And then last would be go into the Japanese market, raise capital there from various investors who are interested in venture companies, and going in public, and then IPO, doing an IPO. If you are raising capital from the venture capitals, then they at least would require your company to go public at some point. That's going to be their exit. So if you are raising capital from venture capitals, then they will ask you what's the plan for your company to go public and do the IPO. So these are the three scenarios, and I'm going to talk about a little bit about which business structure would be suitable for those scenarios. So for the first one, if you're just thinking about grow and keep your business, then I think a GK company structure would be the best, because you can enjoy the flexibility to the maximum. and you can really focus on your business. And if you're thinking about selling your business at some point in the future, then you'd have to choose whether either of KK or JK company. Because if you select branch, then it's just a part of your Australian company. So you have to, for example, split, not really split, but you have to transfer all the business in Japan, which is a bit of burdensome because you have to actually list the contracts and the assets and debts in the contract to transfer business. Whereas if you're just selling KK and KK or JK company, then you just sell the interests such as shares or the interest in JK company. So it's a little bit, or I would say it's simpler if you're selling KK or JK company, whereas selling as compared with the selling branch or part of your Australian business. And then lastly, so if you're thinking about capital raising and doing IPO, then like I said, the KK would be almost the only option for you. So if you raise capital by the investors, they would ask you about the plan for the IPO, and then usually they would like to have some sort of priority over the dividends and things, depending on how much they're going to invest into your company. And then also because of that, they often require to enter into shareholders agreement, under which how they can step into your management or how they can influence your business. So I would say the recommendation for those companies or the owner of the companies of the startup companies, which is going to raise capital and going public, then you'd have to carefully select which kind of class of shares you're going to issue to those investors, and then carefully draft a shareholders agreement so that your operation wouldn't be heavily affected by investors. All right. Thanks very much. So that's all for me. And here's my email address and the LinkedIn links. So if you have any question, you can contact me later or just throw a question now, I think. Thank you.
Ito-san, thank you very much for introducing the various kinds of entity to set up in Japan. And I think as you described the advantages and disadvantages for each type of the company. So if you need further information on that, I'd like to recommend you to contact with Ito-san. So thank you. And we'd like to move on to a Q&A session, and we'd like to use the rest of the time to answer the questions from the viewers. We have some of the questions, and I'd like to go short question first. And one viewer is asking if the slides of the presentation will be shared with the viewers later. Yes, we are going to send the PDF slides later, maybe next Monday, next week. And one short question for Ito-san is that, can we hire the people locally under the representative office in Japan? That's a question. If we can hire locally.
Yes, yeah, you can hire locally in Japan with the representative office, yes.
Okay, and this is for Ito-san as well. Question is, what should I bear in mind during the company formation process? What are some of the differences between Australia and Japan I should be aware of? That's a question.
Yes, so I would say, first of all, the difference is that the registration system or incorporation process in Japan is not really digitalized. So you actually have to do some paperwork, the physical paperwork. So that's a huge difference between the registration or incorporation in Japan as compared with those processes in Australia. And there are some other aspects I could point out. So you'd have to have a constitution. In Australia, it's not a requirement for your company to have a constitution, but in Japan, it's a mandatory. So you have to have your own company's constitution. And in many cases, your lawyer can provide you the templates or the basic constitution for you. Then you can check. So there should be no issue, but you should be aware that there will be a bit of paperwork that you have to do. And another interesting, I think this is very unique to Japan thing, is that you have to have a corporate seal. That's another requirement incorporating a company in Japan. So Japan still is, how to say, the inkan, which is translated into English by corporate seal society. So anything, for example, you are executing your agreement, then you fix your corporate seal on the agreement. So that's the Japanese company law structure and the requirements. So you have to prepare actual physical seal. That's another interesting point I should mention here. Yeah, that's all I think.
Thank you. And the next one is for Roger. And one audience is asking if there are any specific industries in Invest Japan program is targeting. That's a question. Roger, are you there?
Yeah. So we try and target, of course, as I mentioned, innovative or companies that have game-changing technologies. So typically these are things like artificial intelligence, fintech, payment processing, telework, things like that. But it also does go into things such as health sciences, environmental sciences, smart cities. And if you have some sort of technology that is particularly innovative in manufacturing that can reduce labor costs or even just reduce labor in general, these are the kinds of industries we're looking for.
Thank you. And I'd like to pick up the last one. It's for Ito-san. And the question is, how much does it cost to set up a company in Japan? The question is the cost of setting up a company.
Okay. So if you're talking about a company, whether it would be a KK company or GK company, and as I explained in the slides, KK company costs a little bit more, and then GK company is a bit cheaper. And cost for setting up those companies, for a GK company, it's the minimum, the amount that you're going to pay would be around $700, $800 in Australian dollars. That's the registration levy. So that's the minimum amount that you're going to pay. And on top of that, you may be paying a little bit for the legal advisors in terms of in assisting you for the incorporating. So overall, it could be around it's I would say less than $2,000, or it could be less than $1,500. If it's a very simple structure, no issues at all insofar as like the constitution and things, and then you don't have any question about them. And then for KK companies, it's a bit more expensive. So the registration levy would be around $2,000 or $2,500 in Australian dollars. So that's the starting point, and then it could be ranging up to maybe $4,000, $5,000. That's the range, I would say.
Thank you, Ito-san. One question comes in the last minute, and it's a quick. You can maybe answer quick.
Yes.
The question is, how long does it take to register rep office, branch office, and KK company? The duration of the registration.
Oh, okay. So it really depends how fast and how effectively you can prepare required documents, actually, because once those documents are submitted, then it should only take about a week or so, or maybe less than a week to actually get registered in Japan. So, but I would say, yeah, including those preparation period, it's safe to think that it would require maybe a month. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ito-san and Roger-san.
Thank you.
Before closing today's webinar, I'd like to make a small announcement for upcoming webinar. Yeah, is shared? Yep. Okay. Next webinar is scheduled on 30 September from 2 p.m. And Mr. Ito again will be talking about Japanese employment law. It will be a meaningful webinar for those who are planning to go into the Japanese market. And lastly, when you exit Zoom, a post-event survey will pop up. We would sincerely appreciate if you cooperate to fill the form. I look forward to seeing you again on September 30th. Thank you. Thank you very much for all the speakers. Thank you, audiences. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.